I will ask Federici to start for that. Now I will ask my to perform a role.
I will just start the roll call while she's solving internet issue, so we can save time. Okay, AFOPOS 3, AVFSA Belgium, BPHSA Bulgaria, CPSA Croatia, CUPSA Cyprus, CZPSA Czech Republic, TURS Estonia, FIPSA Finland, ANEP France, BPHD Germany, GPSF Greece, IPSA Ireland, SFD Lithuania, MPSA North Macedonia, K.N.P.S.V. The Netherlands, NOPSA Norway, PPSA Poland, APF Portugal, FASFR Romania, NAPSR Serbia, SPSA Slovakia, SSFD Slovenia, Spain, SNAP Sweden, ASAP Switzerland, UPSA International Turkey, and BPSA United Kingdom. I have 24 voting members present. Ah, 25.
And I resume the standing orders. Now we can proceed to the next point on the agenda. Okay, fourth session of the day, I'm sorry. The election of the Vice President of Public Relations. PC did not receive any application. Election of the Vice President of External Relations. PC did not receive any application. Election of the Vice President of European Okay, I am back. I apologize. I hope everyone can hear me well and that everyone is also back because I've seen more people disconnecting. Okay, as I said, for Vice President of European Affairs, PC has received one application from Chloe Lebeau, proposed by Anne France and seconded by APEF Portugal. Do you want me to play the 3 minutes video? Okay, thank you. Will not play it. Then I will give the floor to Anne France for their speech. Anne?
So Nina, Anne France, hope you can hear me right. Dear General Assembly, Anne fully supports Chloe's candidacy. Indeed, having worked with her for a whole year, I can attest to her important involvement in the association. In only 1 year, she has been able to bring a European vision to many positions within ANEP, which has never been done before, for example, in the field of sustainable development or public health contributions, or on the digital. She also managed a working group which produced sheets to explain the European stakes, and her various works made it possible to interest many students in Europe, which is a beautiful victory because it's sometimes difficult. We therefore fully support her application and are sure that she could bring a lot during a full year at EPSA. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to APEF.
Luciana, APEF Portugal. It is with great honor that APEF is supporting Chloe's application for the position of Vice President of European Affairs. Chloe has the knowledge, dedication, and enthusiasm. She has a clear vision of the position and moreover has the experience and understanding of its responsibilities. VPEA is a position that requires good insight into EPSA's history and more specifically EPSA's advocacy and policy discussed along these years. With her experience as VPEA on ANEP, she was able to advocate on numerous initiatives such as AMR, environmental health, and shortages. Also, as advocacy platform representative, she was able to understand advocacy on a European level and actively engage in it. With this, we truly believe she is ready to represent pharmacy students throughout Europe, their interests, and advocate for them and EPSA. The strong motivation she has for the position, as the concrete ideas she developed on her application, will drive EPSA into the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I open the floor for questions. KMPSV?
Kati, KMPSV Netherlands. In your application, I could read that you plan on dedicating this whole year to EPSA, but I couldn't specifically read if you were also planning on becoming an intern thus and going to Brussels, if or when and if this is possible.
Chloe?
Chloe, ANEP France. Yes, as I said, I plan to dedicate my year to my work for EPSA, and it includes also being an intern for PGU. So I also plan on moving to Brussels if it is possible soon, next year. And I'm also looking forward to it.
Thank you. Now I have PPSA.
Paulina, PPSA Poland. In your application, you mentioned about bringing advocacy closer to national members associations. And my question is, do you already have some ideas how exactly are you going to do it?
Chloe?
Yes, Chloe, VPEA candidate. Thank you for your question. Indeed, yes, I've tried at national level to bring advocacy closer to students. So I've had some ideas that could also work with EPSA. First, the changes that will possibly be done to the EA department will help with this procedure. Also, I think working with students and vulgarizing the work that's been done on European levels with like fact sheets, for example, or a time for discussion could help improve their involvement. Also, work between each member association could also help involve the students in European advocacy. For example, work such as AMR could be done on national level. Studies could be done in different countries and comparisons, as we've done this year with CZPSA, SHSFD, and AZEP. And I think it helped us a lot understand what's been done in EPSA this year.
I have Mupsa with a direct.
Alice Mupsa, Turkey. You mentioned changes to the department. Can you be more specific about it? Thank you.
Please keep your question in mind. It is a new point. I will put it on the list. I have SHSFD with a direct. Is it a direct?
Sanja, SHSFD Slovenia, yes, it's a direct regarding the question about how to motivate members to take part in advocacy initiatives. So I have a direct. What do you think about, like, for example, in IPSF, all of the members are paired into groups and they are preparing projects with each other in collaboration with other associations. What do you think about this principle, maybe?
Chloe?
Chloe, VPEA candidate. Thank you for your question. Yes, I've discussed this with Jess already. We think it could be a great initiative, especially if the advocacy coordinator was put in place. I think it helps a lot to involve students, and it's also been done at national level, and it's worked great. So I think that could be a great initiative. Also asking the students what they'd like to work on could also help. So they're actually into groups that are on subject that are close to their countries and their work at national level.
Thank you. Now I have Maya, alumna.
Yes, hi, hello everyone. I hope you can see me. So my name is Maya Shachich. I am EPSA alumni. I was Vice President of External Affairs of mandate 2015-2016. But my question comes from me and also Luca Besso, who cannot be here, but he is former Vice President of External Affairs of the mandate 2014-2015. So Chloe, first of all, I would like to say that we both support your initiative to try to bring more advocacy topics also to the national level, as this is very important, also to have this broader understanding of topics among students, and that there have been some great developments with the advocacy platform and trying to more elaborate all of these advocacy topics more with people from different associations. We would like to ask you if you think if it makes sense or if you would think it would be meaningful to try to bring some of these topics to the General Assembly as well in the form of the motions. Because one thing that we have observed over the last years is that topics are brought to national associations. However, how these topics are chosen, since you have so many things you can focus as a Vice President European Affairs, so you can go more into topics about education of pharmacy students. You can go more into the topics like AMR, of the public, healthcare topics and so forth. So you need to kind of make decisions in the end what you want to focus on. So would it make sense to bring these strategic decisions to the GA in terms of some kind of motions? What do you think? Thank you.
Chloe?
Chloe, VPA candidate. Thank you for your question. Indeed, I think it's a great idea. I forgot the first thing I want to say. I'll get back to it later. I think it's a great idea. What could be necessary in order to have subjects that are relevant to the current the current work done at EU institutions is maybe doing some trainings on how the EU works and why they're focusing on the different subjects. Knowing the different competencies of the EU is also very important. So I think starting the mandate with that kind of training and afterwards asking the member associations to help to choose what initiatives that they'd like to work on is very interesting and is important to be done. I think it's also important to keep in mind that some topics need to be brought into light for EPSA's visibility, depending on what's being discussed at EU level and the time management of the different topics. But for the working groups and for the involvement of the member states, for the member associations, sorry, that could be very interesting. Also, I think some EU advocacy could be done by the member associations together, and that could be endorsed by EPSA. That could also help with the visibility of EPSA, and it would help with their involvement as well.
Thank you. Now I have BPSA.
Guilherme, BPSA United Kingdom. If you're a new possible partner, how would you pitch the EPSA to them in 1 minute?
Chloe?
Yes, Chloe, VPA candidate. I think I understood your question. Most of the lobbying would be done within communication and stakeholder groups. So my presentation would be depending on the initiative and position I would want to highlight, depending on the stakeholder. The meetings would also be discussed, negotiated, and in collaboration with the different stakeholders. So I think that's important to work on prior to the meeting. My role is really to communicate and negotiate with the relevant partner and take opportunities where for EPSA and depending on what's discussed at that particular moment. And from what I've seen from past mandates, EPSA is actually already established. So I would need to continue to improve their visibility by consistently keep up with communication and the relevant stakeholders.
I have BPSA with a direct.
BPSA United Kingdom. I asked if you're a new possible partner, how would you pitch EPSA to them in 1 minute?
Chloe?
Yes, thank you. Chloe, VPA candidate. Are you asking me if I can pitch right now a partner? Because I think that work is mostly done by VPER, but I could present something that I would be able to present to a stakeholder at a meeting on EPSA and who they represent, if that's what you wish.
BPSA?
BPSA United Kingdom. Yeah, in BPSA United Kingdom, I was asking for an elevator pitch.
Chloe?
Chloe, VPA candidate. Okay, I will try to do so. Well, EPSA is the European Pharmaceutical Student Association and is representing over 100,000 students within 36 European countries. We conduct activities through regular congresses, training events, and publication campaigns. Those are usually done with our other partners. We have over 17 professional partners. We work with them. We also have many EPSA members, EPSA team, sorry, that are interning for them, and that also helps a lot with the work, and we're all usually very active. Also, we work jointly with 10 student partners that helps with interprofessional work. You might have seen it with the AMR initiative recently done.
Thank you. Now I have KNPSV.
Kathy, KPSV Netherlands. Well, in your application, you mentioned some ideas, but most of them were also already included in the package of the Vice President of European Affairs. I was wondering if you had any novel ideas about improving the position.
Chloe?
Chloe, VPEA candidate. Yes, well, it was a bit hard to elaborate my ideas since many changes are being brought to light for the EA department. I think it will very much depend on those changes and how it will be elaborated. Some of what I've thought of is what I've talked about before about involving more the member associations with the working groups. I also thought doing some more trainings and infographics on how the EU works for the member associations and to be broadcasted to the students all over Europe. Also for the advocacy, I think increasing its visibility on social medias and attending events is really important, and that was a bit difficult for the past year. As for the AR event, I think it could be interesting to also involve more students by maybe preparing some discussing time with the students prior to the event and to the roundtables. For example, we could, if we talk about the pharmaceutical strategy, for example, we could maybe give concrete ideas of what it represents to students on their level and have them more involved and let us know what their worries are, what their decisions are, and what kind of questions they would have. So during those roundtables and important events, we could work on the pitch and on the roundtable discussion on what's been discussed prior with the students. So I think that's really important. Also about the advocacy strategy, it's going to be discussed with the EPSA team, Jess, and with the advice of the alumni. But I've had some ideas, but I think it's important to have their opinion first before giving my opinion.
Thank you. Now I have Mopsa.
Turkey. You mentioned changes in your speech. What changes are you planning on to integrate into your position?
Chloe?
Chloe, VPA candidate. Well, I mentioned some of the changes to answer KS and PSV before your questions, and also those changes also include those that are expected for the EA department. So on the functioning of the EA department as well. But I would be happy to answer further if you have any specific questions on those changes that I elaborated right before.
Thank you. Now I have KMPSV.
Jason, KMPSV, the Netherlands. What were your main tasks as the Vice President of European Affairs in ANEP, and how have these tasks prepared you for the position of EPSA Vice President of European Affairs?
Chloe?
Chloe, VPA candidate. Thank you for your questions. Since we're a smaller association, smaller than EPSA, I basically have the work of the EA department. So I do the grant work. I also do the policy work. I worked mainly on AMR, on the pharmaceutical strategy, which involves digitalization, shortages, and also the Pact for Skills. So we wrote a manifest on the pharmaceutical strategy that we're today advocating for at national level with the parties that are going to be part of the French presidency of the European Council. So in order to be able to do that, I've had a lot of trainings on how the EU works. I've taken part in many conferences, and I'm also part of the AMR stakeholder group network, that EPSA is also a part of. So I've been able to work with Jess, see her position, and have a similar position inside this stakeholder group. Yes, and I've also done a lot of trainings for our members and our students. We basically did about maybe 10 to 15 trainings and debates with professionals. We also did 2 roundtables on the European Health Union. So I've been in contact with European professionals that helped me a lot in understanding what's expected from students, what position to take, and how to elaborate an advocacy strategy.
Thank you. Now I have Shachich.
Sanja, Slovenia. It has been mentioned before, but we want to hear you. We want to hear you more in details. What do you think about the new position, advocacy platform coordinator? Do you think it's beneficial or unnecessary for EPSA?
Chloe.
Chloe, VPA candidate. Well, I actually have an anecdote that came in mind about last week. We did a training with an old MEP, European MEP, and she told us that most of the work is usually done by member states, and what is difficult for European institutions is that some member states are not as involved as they should be and are usually blocking the development of their work. I think it's a bit like it's similar at our association level. It's important to have the students more involved and understand better what Europe is and how it works and how it helps us at our level. I've noticed as VPEA for ANEP that some students really don't understand much and don't really want to understand because it seems so difficult. But once we've involved them, we noticed that most of them are really interested. We saw an increase in the number of participants at our trainings and more questions. And I feel like if we help them understand how it works, they would be more involved. They would be more interested and would help with EPSA's visibility at national level, since it's important to keep in mind that the national governments are also part of the EU institutions, and they also help with the advancement of everything that's going on at European institutions. So I think the advocacy platform coordinator is really important in order to to be close to those students and help them with more trainings and maybe to be closer to their advocacy. I know Jess helped me a lot this year. She took the time to answer a lot of my questions, which helped me a lot with my advocacy strategy. But having an advocacy coordinator would be a lot more than just helping one or two students. It would be being there for them always and having more meetings and also managing the working groups. So I think it's a really good idea and I fully support it.
Thank you. That was the last question on my speaking list. I will wait about 15-20 seconds if you have any more questions, and after that I can close the floor for if you don't have any more questions. And I close the floor for questions. Chloe, you may present your final speech. 1 minute final speech. Yes, Chloe.
Chloe, VPA candidate. I would like to thank the GA for their questions and for considering my application. As VPEA for ANEP, I have been proud of being represented by EPSA, and today I wish to take a year off to dedicate myself to European pharmaceutical students' representation to EU institutions and stakeholders. After many exchanges with the EPSA team, I think I understand the important role of VPEA for EPSA and what it implicates. I have also learned a lot through their feedbacks and have a clear idea of what could be done to increase EPSA's visibility and improve EPSA's advocacy strategy. I hope I was able to be convincing to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Now I will pause the recording